Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on getting a triple-double, endpoint security, automation, and orchestration with CrowdStrike and Demisto. I'm Erin Swanson, and I'll be your moderator today for this very well-attended event. And just a quick review of our usual housekeeping items before we begin. As many of you may know, if you have questions, type them in on the right-hand area of the GoToWebinar platform, and we will address as many as possible as time permits. We are recording the session, and we'll send you an email containing the recording link in the next couple of days. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers. Hailing from Toronto, Canada, Evan Burns is the Solutions Architect for Technology Alliances at CrowdStrike. And prior to joining CrowdStrike, Evan was an information security analyst for TD Bank Group, so he understands firsthand the difficulties and demands on today's security professionals. And our second speaker is Rishi Bhargava, co-founder of Demisto. Prior to Demisto, Rishi was VP and General Manager of the Software-Defined Data Center Group at McAfee and Intel. And he also serves as an advisor to multiple startups in Silicon Valley and India. And now I'll turn this webinar over to your capable hands, Evan.
Great, thanks very much, Erin. Good afternoon, all. Excited to be here today. So we're going to kind of kick off the session with a quick overview of CrowdStrike for any of the folks on the line that aren't familiar with the solution. And then we'll actually jump into doing a full demonstration to give you some insight into the really powerful integration we have between CrowdStrike and Demisto. So as an introduction to CrowdStrike, we are a cloud-delivered endpoint protection platform. There's a number of different capabilities that we actually bring to our customers. Today, we're actually going to get to see two different areas, one being our intelligence service and the other being our endpoint EDR capability and the integration. As a quick kind of synopsis from an architectural point of view, some things to understand is that we are 100% cloud-based. So there's no on-premise server infrastructure that you actually deploy out to your environment. And really the reason for doing this is one, the more obvious benefits of not having to manage that actual infrastructure on your end, but also comes down to actually being able to protect your workloads from remote locations. Right? So whether you have kind of an increasingly large workforce that's working remotely from open Wi-Fi in coffee shops or airports or at home, this technology provides the exact same benefit regardless of where the endpoint actually is located. Right? If we look at a lot of organizations starting to move their applications and server workloads out to public cloud environments, traditionally getting insight and getting visibility into those environments can be pretty difficult with an on-premise security tool. So that's another really large value proposition that we can provide customers and organizations that capability to secure their applications regardless of where they're actually deployed. So from an architectural standpoint, there's the cloud aspect of what we provide, and then there's also a very lightweight sensor that would be installed on the endpoint itself. And that sensor has a couple of different capabilities built into it. It can serve as a protection type capability to actually prevent malware and prevent fileless type of attacks. And it can also provide EDR type capability. Right, so we think about it from an incident response or a forensic standpoint. Commonly, we need to understand what sequence of events actually occurred on the endpoint leading up to this attack and after that attack. So the sensor will actually actively collect in real time around 270 different types of events now. So that's everything from process executions to DNS requests and to any modifications of the file system or registry. Again, we provide a lot of depth, not just into the basic capabilities, but also into more memory resident types of attacks. And that foundation of the tooling is really what allows us to identify some of these more prolific breaches that we're seeing nowadays with more advanced tactics, using more traditional tradecraft such as PowerShell or built-in operating system utilities to kind of blend in as an administrator. One of the unique approaches that we take with our technology stack as well is instead of myopically focusing on one part of the problem, which we see a lot of other tools out there that will leverage one specific technique, whether it be machine learning or they'll do exploit prevention or they'll provide whitelisting capabilities. we provide a holistic approach towards endpoint security. So if you're familiar with the kill chain methodology, right, there's various phases that an attacker would walk through, whether it be the initial exploitation to get a foothold onto the system, the post-exploitation such as credential theft, privilege escalation, and then ultimately getting to the action on objectives phase, which is typically data exfiltration or destruction of systems. So we provide a layered approach towards this by using multiple different techniques to prevent at each phase. We'll see that briefly as I go through the CrowdStrike demo as part of this session as well. From an offering perspective, we've recently split out our services and our products into 5 different categories. What you're seeing here is how we've categorized these products. The benefit of this is that it's still one sensor, it's one solution. If you want different functionality, we can simply modify the configuration of that sensor. So you don't need to maintain 5 or 6 different agents to really facilitate your security requirements. This is one single agent that can perform multifunctional capabilities. So IT Hygiene is a new product we introduced earlier this year called Falcon Discover. And this is really about getting back to the basics, right? Being able to understand your environment, being able to identify access management type controls, right? Do I have local administrators logging into systems? Do I have people that are not resetting their passwords? This kind of was born out of the realization that from an EDR perspective, we collect all of this great, rich data. Why not apply that towards the kind of IT hygiene area? Next generation antivirus is also a relatively new feature that we've released as a module called Falcon Prevent. And this is really geared towards being able to replace your existing antivirus. And a lot of companies out there are starting to realize that the efficacy of their existing kind of incumbent AV solutions hasn't been very helpful. And they're looking for more cutting-edge technology. So this Falcon Prevent module leverages machine learning and various other techniques to have more of a protective, preventative, layered approach towards security. Our third module here is EDR, or Falcon Insight, as it's named. And this is about the collection of all the raw data off the endpoint that I alluded to earlier. This really kind of facilitates the use case of being an incident responder or being an analyst sitting in the SOC, and really needing more context, right? Being able to identify on a per process basis what's actually going on in the system, what's the impact to my organization, and being able to actually hunt across the environment and look for things such as behavioral anomalies or looking for specific IOCs. And our last 2 modules here, one, a managed hunting service, which is actually a human component. So we provide a team of individuals spread across the globe that can hunt across all of our customers' data holistically and respond and inform them and work with them when there's more cutting-edge breaches that the technology itself might not stop. So we are firm believers in you need a layered approach towards security. There's no tool that's 100%. This managed hunting component brings the human aspect to the table and gives you that capability to identify more advanced types of attacks. And last but not least, which we'll again see through the integration demo today, is our threat intelligence service, which is sold as a separate subscription service. And this provides both human curated and strategic intelligence and also tactical intelligence feeds, which come in the form of indicators of compromise that you can use to search across your environment. So with that, I'm going to take the next 5 to 7 minutes here to kind of go through what the CrowdStrike interface looks like and really kind of set the stage for what we'll see shortly with Rishi showing us the actual integration we have with Demisto. So what you're seeing here is the actual Falcon user interface. Again, most of our customers will leverage the interface for doing more advanced investigations, but we do also provide a number of different APIs which allow us to integrate into really a large suite of our technology partnerships, Demisto being at the forefront of doing orchestration automation. They can leverage our APIs to perform a lot of the capability we'll see shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and drill down into our detections dashboard. This is kind of a curated view of all of the alerts that we pick up in a customer's environment. Now at the top, you can see a number of different facets. One that I commonly like to point out here is the scenario category. And what I alluded to earlier about taking a layered approach towards security, you can see really realized here in the approach we use for categorization of alerts in the environment. So we can do things like block attacks at the exploitation phase. We can provide prevention towards ransomware-based threats. But we also have a number of approaches towards things like drive-by download attacks or things such as credential theft. So as an example here in Wave visibility, let's take a drive-by download type attack, and we'll actually drill down into an alert to give you some insight into what this actually looks like from a user response perspective. Now on the left-hand side, we can see the full process tree. All right, so this is a representation of all of the data that we collect to the sensor and send up to our cloud. And this actually allows us to visualize the entire sequence of events leading up to the attack. And so in this case, as a responder, I can quickly see Outlook.exe spawned Internet Explorer, which then spawned up again, and boom, I have an exploit. So there's a lot of value in not only being able to prevent and detect, but also to have that kind of context in terms of how that attack got there. From a response perspective, we could take an action such as go and contain this endpoint. And if we know this is compromised, we want to lock the adversary out of the system. You can actually emit a signal from the cloud down to the endpoint and terminate all TCP/IP type communications out of that endpoint. From an EDR perspective, there's a number of different capabilities as well. We'll take a very basic example here of searching for an indicator across the environment. In this case, I could take the domain of interest, right? Maybe I received this from one of my threat intel providers or some other source. And I can do a search across my entire environment over the past 7 days. And one of the benefits of our EDR approach is that we're actually searching this data in our cloud, right? This isn't imposing any impact down to your endpoint or to your network. We actively collect the data stored in our cloud, and when you want to perform hunting or analytics, those searches are all run locally within the cloud. So very quickly, I can see I have a number of hosts, I have 8 specific hosts that have made a beacon out to this domain. I can actually trace it down to the process level, where I'm seeing that ping is the responsible process for reaching out to this domain. This serves as the basis to go and perform additional investigation and try and determine whether it's an actual false positive or there's some other activity occurring related to this specific indicator. From a Discover point of view, this was the IT hygiene application. Let's take a look at asset inventory here. This is going to provide you a full overview of all the endpoints in your environment, what operating systems they're actually running on, a breakdown by manufacturer, and all types of different kind of metadata related to your assets. We can also provide the capability to identify unmanaged assets. Right? So a common challenge in an enterprise or really any organization is identifying which systems on my network don't have my security tools. Right? Where am I blind? Where do I have my gaps? So we use a number of different techniques to actually identify any systems on the network that don't have the security tool installed, which allows you to kind of provide more robust protection. We can also pivot into our application inventory and understanding what software I have in my environment, what versions are actually running. This is also very useful for more of the ITSM world where you purchase a large set of licenses, but you want to identify are they actually being used. So again, here we can get a breakdown of every single application running, all the different versions and files associated with that. So with that, in the spirit of making sure we dedicated enough time towards the demonstration, I'll wrap up this component of the CrowdStrike overview and pass it over to Rishi for the actual integration demo.
Fantastic. Thank you, Evan. That was amazing. It's very interesting. I think obviously a few things that jump out to me as well is holistic and complete platform. And I think that's kind of emerging as a theme of the webinar, I would say, because that's what we're going to look at today, how Demisto provides a complete platform for the entire incident response and automation process. But before we jump into the Demisto part of the slides and then a joint integrated demo, quick reminder, I already see some of you guys are typing in questions in the GoToMeeting box, but please feel free to ask questions. We will save enough time at the end to cover questions. So type your questions into the questions box on the top, on the bottom right of GoToMeeting. So let's look at some of the challenges that we hear from our joint customers as we go present the solution. One of the common themes that we hear is there's a lot of alerts, and these alerts coming in from your network tools, from your perimeter firewalls, from cloud protections or endpoint, and there's not enough folks to address these alerts. And sometimes these alerts are duplicates, in other cases these alerts are absolutely valid problems which need deeper investigation. The other side of challenges that we hear from prospects on the security operations side is lack of IR process. I mean, it's unbelievable that we still talk to customers, and these are Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 customers who use email for their incident response process management. So they get emails in a mailbox and respond to those emails or forward those emails to other security analysts. So the lack of process in handling the IR cycle becomes a huge challenge. And effectively, what that results in is a long mean time to respond. If you get a tool like CrowdStrike, which does excellent detections, how quickly can you respond to those? How quickly can you clean up the environment? Can you automate certain pieces? And that becomes the reason why customers choose us to automate part of the workflows. But there is another piece, and which we'll cover that, is also how do you help the teams become better over time? How do you help them collaborate? So why the Demisto? I mean, looking at those challenges, one of the big piece that we help customers with is a complete case management. So when an alert comes in from one of the security tools like CrowdStrike, the life cycle of that alert, if it is an alert for a ransomware-like scenario, the process of handling could be completely different than a mere malware alert on one of the employees' desktop. If it is your CEO which is being targeted for phishing, that process is completely different. So the incident response process, the metrics, the goals, all of those need to be tracked, and that becomes an important piece. Second piece is automation. So if you think about it, if you have a documented process for these types of alerts, you could actually automate certain of those tasks. Things like enriching an IOC with the intel from Falcon Intelligence, right? If you get a URL, can you get all the details about it? Can you find related indicators to a certain indicator? Find all indicators in the same malware family. And things like those are simple tasks that could be automated. Or you could go automate as much as add certain indicators that you found in an event to a CrowdStrike watch list. So imagine your firewall gives you an indicator and you want to add to the watch list across your CrowdStrike environment. These are all automation tasks which an analyst should not have to do on a repeated basis. Third piece is, can we help analysts learn from each other? And this is a huge piece, and we're going to look at this. How in the Demisto interface, in addition to being able to automate what you already want to automate and know, how can you pivot? How can you learn? How can you work with your peers to solve an incident faster? And overall, making the analyst team productive and more happy. This is why, looking at those three pieces, we think of ourselves as the connected fabric for your security infrastructure and teams. And I'm stressing on these two different things because in our vision and belief, the technology is as important as people inside of a SOC, if not more. And I think becoming complement to each other, the people and the tools playing together is very, very important. And when you combine these three pieces, that's when we have seen customers reduce the mean time to respond and operational risk. Digging deeper into the product, out of the box, Demisto brings in 120 plus different integrations. Think of a security tool, we are integrated. Today we're going to focus on the use cases with CrowdStrike, but numerous integrations across your network portfolio, sandboxes. And across these 120 integrations, we actually have 1,000 actions. And we will look at the example actions, but each product, like you saw the richness of the CrowdStrike data, CrowdStrike has an amazing API which exposes those actions. We leverage those actions and APIs to be able to automate things. Incident management, we looked at it, but I think one of the big pieces that is there is tracking evidence. In case you are investigating an incident and some of the pieces need to be marked as evidence, need to be produced in code of law, you need to go there and show that this is the data we collected. We help you track all that evidence collection, journaling, meeting regulatory compliance throughout that incident management process. We touched upon briefly on the interactive investigation, and we're going to spend a lot of time looking at this in the demo as well. But imagine each of your analysts or each of you guys who are doing this security investigations day in and day out had an assistant. And you never have to worry about logging into Active Directory and learning about which group does this person belong to, who is their manager, when did they last log in, or what is the details about this IP address, or where is this domain registered in the world? Is this registered in Russia? Is this registered in United States? These are all tasks that today you do manually. The dbot helps you do those and helps you do that from within a chat window. So not only you chat with your peers, but you're able to do these tasks interactively. And then all of the data collected across is correlated. We let you import sticks, being able to correlate the threat feed across incidents, bringing these pieces together. And to bring all these pieces together, your process, your automation, your investigation, and all the intelligent data from indicators, we learn from it. What do we learn? There are few pieces we help you with. So for example, if you're a large organization with, let's say, tens of SOC analysts, who should you assign this incident to? That's a very important question, right? I'm pretty sure in a lot of these organizations, there are people who are experts with malware analysis. There are people who are experts with social engineering analysis. And who is the person who should own this incident is a function of the load and the function of what are they expert at. So Demisto learns that as you go along with your incident response process. Second piece, who is an expert that you can use help from? Now that is different from owning an incident. You might want to invite an expert at a certain point of time in incident. We recommend you. And then what are the next best steps? What are the best products you should use for resolving such an incident? What are related incidents to each other? These are all pieces that we bring together and learn from all the historical data or all the historical alerts that flow into the environment. Every analyst action is indexed. Every analyst step is learned from. Another important piece, I think one of the biggest journey we took on here is we wanted to make sure we're building a product that is useful to the customer. It delivers value. And for that purpose, we actually built a very, very large community. This is the largest incident response community out there, roughly 2,000 security experts from 53 different time zones. It's funny, when I put that stat out, people say, hey, really? There are 53 time zones? Yes, there are 53 time zones, some 10-minute apart, some 15-minute apart. But the point is we built a security community where people are sharing playbooks. They're sharing ideas about incident response. They're talking about which is the best training material, training course, how do I learn about this latest malware, and sharing ideas. And this is where all those 1,000+ automations are open source. So we have all those automations, actions, integrations, all open sourced as well. So we welcome folks to join the community, even if you are not an active customer of Demisto at this point of time. This community is a huge asset for you guys to learn from your peers. So, enough said, I think the best way to kind of spend the rest of the time is to go look at a live demo. We did pray to the demo god, so hopefully all the pieces here will flow smoothly. And I'm going to switch to the Demisto interface. So, in the demo today, what we're actually going to look at is a CrowdStrike automation playbook. But before we look at the playbook and automating a scenario and then going into an interactive investigation, let's look at some of the building blocks here, right? So this is the list of integrations that we have with CrowdStrike. 3 different APIs. I think one of the best things that I have seen about the CrowdStrike product and the platform is everything that you can do in the interface is available as an API. And that lets the customers tie things together. That helps partners like us automate things. So it's a very, very unique place there. So for example, the Falcon Intel API lets us look at actors. So we can look at known actors and say, hey, give me all the details about this particular actor. We can actually run an indicator search, being able to look at indicators and say, what do you know about this specific indicator? Reports, all the Falcon Intel API reports. You can actually go get details about a domain, a file, and an IP and a URL. Same on the streaming side, we integrate with the streaming side to be able to get all the alerts. In this case, we ingest alerts, and that alerts could be mapped. So we can map the incoming alerts from CrowdStrike to alerts or incidents in Demisto automatically. So you don't need to kind of go look at an alert like we looked in Evan's demo earlier and go create an incident in Demisto. We can automatically pipe through that. The host API, again, very, very rich API, deleting an IOC, finding the count of devices where a particular IOC ran or was detected. Device details, get very, very rich device details. Finding if the device ID where an indicator ran, searching for a device, getting IOC details, setting up watch list. So upload an IOC and have CrowdStrike watch it so that if it's found anywhere else, an alert could be generated. So imagine the closed loop that you detected an IOC elsewhere in your environment using a network solution. Take that IOC, upload as a watch list item to CrowdStrike in an automated manner, and then next time it happens, it generates an alert which comes back into Demisto and run another automation. So very, very rich API. And this is only a specific CrowdStrike API walkthrough, otherwise 120 plus integrations as we have seen, or you can build your own integration. If you have internal tools and solutions, you can build that. Now, these integrations and commands are used in what we call playbook. So today, for our demonstration purposes, we're going to actually pick up this specific playbook, which is a CrowdStrike playbook. And what we have done here is we're going to start with an indicator and go through a full life cycle. So imagine somebody reported in your organization, or one of the SIM reported an indicator that this looks like a suspicious hash. The first step is an enrichment playbook. And this is a playbook which is designed to go get threat feed data correlated from multiple sources. CrowdStrike, Falcon Intel, VirusTotal, IBM Exports Exchange, domain tools, as many as you want. So it enriches it. The second step here is after you enrich it, what we want to do is we want to go to CrowdStrike and run an indicator search and see if this particular MD5 which we're going to use matches other indicators. And if it does, get the malware family details. And if that indicator is found to be malicious, and this is where a condition comes in, then we go ahead and find other indicators related. So now we're going to run the search on CS indicators, same Falcon API, but with the malware family, which we actually extracted from one of the source. And it's very easy to go pick up these steps from previous tasks. So here, if you go put in a source, you can actually go ahead and look up the details from any of the previous tasks for completing these parameters. Then, once you find related indicators, we can actually switch to Falcon Host and say, hey, do I have Falcon Host deployed in my environment? And if I do have Falcon Host deployed in my environment, then I want to hunt across that environment and see anywhere this particular malicious MD5 is found. If it is found, then go ahead and retrieve the endpoint details, deploy a Demisto agent, pull that malicious file from the endpoint. So Demisto has a dissolvable agent for doing further actions like fetching a file or other deeper analysis. We don't recommend as that persistent agent to be deployed. It's only for quick forensics use cases if it is not deployed, if it does not have an advanced solution of that sort. So some of the tasks could be done here. And then you go ahead and isolate the endpoint as well. Notice that I've kept this particular step as a manual step. So Demisto playbooks can actually support process workflows. You can have human analysts completing these tasks. So you'll see in the actual run that we come in here and this playbook stops and waits for the human analyst to complete it. Or it could be a fully automated playbook like we had in all these other steps where you see the lightning sign. So that's a quick overview of the playbook we're going to look at. Let's go run the slide. In the Demisto system, these incidents that you're going to see here could be created completely automatic as an ingestion from a CrowdStrike streaming API or a SIM like ArcSight or Splunk or any of those tools, or an analyst can manually complete it, manually create an incident. So I'm going to create a new incident, and I'm going to just call it a demo incident, run our demo incident. This incident structure is fully customizable, so you can actually go ahead, add your custom fields, or use some of the standard fields, and that's it. So we're going to add a label for our practical purposes here. Typically what would happen is this process would not be a manual process in most incidents. An incident will come in from a streaming API and be created. So let's put in the MD5. I'm going to use this malicious MD5. I have my indicator, which I know. So I add that label right here to run the hinting exercise. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually trigger the playbook manually again. Again, this step is fully automated in real-life scenario, but to explain the system, I'm using this as a manual step. So that's it. I created an incident. Now, what starts to happen is as soon as the incident starts to run, our playbook automatically starts to run. So you're going to see this live. The playbook is running and completing these tasks, and it's following through. Now, typically, this would all happen in the background, and you saw how quickly we conducted the hunt across. Typically, this would happen in the background, and what analysts would come in and see the following. Analysts would come in and say, hey, what is the incident about? This is a new incident. It was created at this time. It occurred at this time. SLA is still 9 days away because that's a typical SLA. Last updated at this time. No other field was updated anytime recently. What did we find? So let's look at it. This is actually very interesting that we started with one MD5 as you saw in the incident. But I suddenly found all the other bad and suspicious indicators which are related. And this was because of that step that we did where we went to CrowdStrike Intel and brought back all the related indicators. Very powerful, right? I mean, an analyst would have spent easily 40 to 45 minutes to get to the stage in the process. And then other details could be found about the incident as well. So before we start doing a deeper analysis, another view for the analyst is to kind of look at step by step. So here, what we did was ran the enrichment playbook and found all the details there. We actually went ahead and found details about that particular indicator. Notice that whenever we see things like a hash or a file or a URL, I automatically correlate it to other incidents. So we have found that this hash has occurred in 12 other incidents, and one of them is a WannaCry breach. So it looks like this is a WannaCry indicator, but let's see, is that right? CrowdStrike returns results as well and saying this is malware families, Wanna ransomware. Now, an important piece of the Demisto solution, again, as I said, we believe in being analysts as the center of the investigation. We display results in a very, very human-readable manner, including in cases we look at it, display even a map. And then there's machine-readable output. So there's the output, JSON output that the API returns, but then we translate it to a nice human-readable result for people to be able to interpret that, right? I mean, you don't want to read that JSON. You want to actually make sense out of it in a split second. Are there malicious indicators found? Yes, right? So that is why we took the yes path here and we skipped the else path, didn't go there. Otherwise, the investigation would have closed. We find all the other related indicators. So here we go ahead, find the entire table. Very easy to kind of view full artifact. You can open it in a full table, search for other indicators. very, very navigation-friendly interface to kind of go look at all the details right here. But fundamentally, what's going on here is we hunt. I hope we do not find this malware on any of our machines, but we are hunting. We run a CS device ran on API, and we did not find this particular hash or any of the related indicators on any of the device. So it takes the else path and waits here. Now, typically here, an analyst is invited. One of the steps could be send an email to an analyst. An analyst comes in and reviews this basic information. Or they can actually review, are there any related incidents? So analysts quickly can look at, says, hey, based on all the indicators in this incident, is there another thing? Oh my God, there is another incident which has got 77% similarity. There are a few other incidents with 38% similarity. And this is going back in time. If I want to kind of look at this one is an actually unknown URL type incident. I can actually jump to that incident and look at the related incidents to that. So multiple ways to pivot to see other incidents, and then we find other close incidents to that as well. And we can quickly go ahead, pick an incident, link those together as well if needed. But let's go back to our current incidents rather than go on this hunt, because what I want to do is I want to learn more about what's going on here, and maybe I want to invite somebody to help me. So this is where the interactive investigation comes in. This is where the bot comes in. When I say at lets me invite people to this investigation in this war room. This is like your chat room. Literally, there is a chat room per incident where you can invite an analyst. You can either go invite team members from right here, and we suggest that Amir and Leo are probably the best person to kind of go help. I can invite it here, or a lot of the analysts don't want to move to the mouse. They say, at Leo, help me with the analysis here. If I can type analysis here, right? So you can chat. Leo gets a notification. Leo can chat back and forth. The other thing you can do is you can fairly just take a note and say, starting with network analysis. I will check IP reputation and system file analysis. Right. This becomes a very, very quick way. I'm going to actually mark this as a note to highlight because I want all of these notes to be tagged. And as soon as you do this, these notes are added to the summary view right here. And when the user and my manager sees this, they know exactly what's going on. But more than chatting with your peers, as I said, I have an assistant. I have Dbot. You know what I want to know? I want to actually go ahead and get AD user details about the user who's compromised here, Jenny Russo. So I'm going to get their manager. So let's run that command. With the bang, with just hitting that bang, you can run all these commands. So we go ahead, and Dbot went, saying, yes, master, went ahead, got me all that information back right there. And then we found the email, and then we correlated the email again. So any of these indicators come in. But let's do something more interesting. I actually want to download a file from one of the endpoints. So I say system add. This is putting a dissolved agent. I'm going to quickly go ahead and deploy this agent on this particular system and says OS, Windows, we auto detect the OS, usually not required. But then credentials, we already have a credential store. I have the CrowdStrike username and password for that endpoint saved. So I will deploy it, and let's give it a name, CS endpoint, to make it easy. So with that, I have added a system to my investigation because I'm actually going to go ahead and get deeper. I'm saying D to install, and I'm going to get the agent installed on that system. The next thing, again, all these commands are with a bang. They are, by the way, very easy to discover. You can start typing your command name, like fetch file. It autocompletes. So if I'm saying fetch, it shows me all the commands which are going to fetch a file. So you don't need to kind of know this language per se here. So fetch a file, I want to fetch the file for CS endpoint. And then in this case, I have the file name right here. So I'm going to take this, but you can do other operations as well. Go search with a hash using CrowdStrike, and then when you find the file name, you can take the file name from there. But again, the point is, from an analyst perspective, you are just sifting through, going through your investigation. And with that command, we are able to fetch the file from the endpoint. Oops, there was an error probably here, and we did not find that file there. I guess that file doesn't exist, which is probably an important piece. Or maybe I can try again. Maybe the agent was not connected. But the demo gods are not happy. I didn't process the file probably. The point being, all these things are auto-documented. You can take this detail, mark as evidence, and say, I'm going to add it to the evidence board and be done with it. Says user compromised, and start to track your entire evidence. I know there's only a preview. There's a lot more to cover. As I mentioned, all the indicators are captured, cross-correlated. All of these pieces, all the incident data is available through dashboards and reports, and giving you a complete holistic platform from an end-to-end incident response, starting from an alert or a hunting action to go in and respond to tasks, including blocking tasks. Typically, when it comes to blocking tasks, the last stage there would be commands like upload an IOC to CS or CrowdStrike. So we can easily say CS, upload IOC interactively or in the playbook. So all the commands I'm running here could be even part of the playbook step that we saw earlier. So one of the steps you could go do here is go ahead and add the CS upload command in the playbook. And that's very easy to integrate as well. You say CS upload, it is the Falcon host API, and you upload the IOC and add it as a task. So with that, I think we're going to open the floor for some questions and see what the questions have from the audience. Wow, a lot of questions. Let's see how many of these we get through. Evan, actually, the first question is for you. How is the CrowdStrike sensor protected from malicious actors compromising it? So it's basically if the endpoint, how can the sensor protect itself or other technologies there?
Yeah, so in way of sensor tampering, as we refer to it as, right, where an adversary may be aware of the sensor being there and tries to actually modify it. There's a number of different patterns we have that we can look at from a behavioral aspect. And there's also the Overwatch team that would pick up and look for that type of activity and make sure we alert our customers on it.
Fantastic. That's an awesome. Second question, is the CrowdStrike playbook already in the Demisto? So what I went through, actually, that's a very good question. The playbook that I went through, I created literally in 15 minutes, right? I mean, this is basically connecting these pieces as you saw. But we use CrowdStrike Rapid IOC Hunting Playbook. There is a built-in playbook for using all these CrowdStrike APIs in the content in the Demisto. And if there is not one, our customer success team is always there for customers to go help build that. But yes, there is a CrowdStrike playbook out of the box in Demisto already. There's a question of how do we become the Demisto partner, who should we contact? So yes, the way to contact us is through our website. There is a Become a Partner form. We will be in touch for folks who have applied for some partnerships. I think there's a question there. Another interesting question, how does this work with phishing? It's actually, phishing is another playbook, right? So a scenario for phishing could be that you start with a suspicious mailbox and go find out that email, learn more about that email, enrich that email, and then use CrowdStrike to take either an action for watching indicators that you found in that suspicious email or seeing if one of the endpoint has that indicator. So we already have a phishing playbook as well there, which uses other tools for enrichment, CrowdStrike for enrichment, file, IP, URL, as we saw. So there's a pretty rich phishing playbook which could be used for the same scenario. The point here again is incident type does not matter. The playbook could be created. The automations could be created and customized to your workflows. Wow, this one is a long question. let's say I find the same IOC and 10 endpoints. After my investigation, I say we need to isolate these 10 endpoints. How does this platform allow me to group these endpoints together and have them isolated? Fantastic question. So I think one of the big pieces in our playbook automation is we handle multiple IPs, URLs, endpoints, all of those things very, very seamlessly. So typically when you did that search in the playbook right here for find devices, that would have returned an array of devices that it found on. And that array could be passed to an automation says isolate. And we will iterate through that list automatically. You don't need to create loops. You don't need to worry about it. The system is smart enough to handle that. That's one way to do it. Other way to do it is CrowdStrike if you want to use other APIs to isolate and do things like those, or your firewall. That could be an automation to go create a group in firewall or a rule in firewall to isolate that endpoint. So multiple different ways to handle and truly mitigate. Let's see. What other out-of-the-box integrations vendors are included right now in the orchestration platform? We have 120 different vendors that we have integrated with. We have a list on our website in the partner section of the website. We are still in the process of updating and catching up. Please contact us. We can share the complete list, but we do have 120 different integrations right here. So Micro Focus, which is Oxide. I don't want to go through the complete list here, but a very, very, very long list right here. Do we have an integration with Office 365? Yes. Native integration with Office 365 for searching mailboxes, for blocking emails, for fetching emails from a mailbox, a very, very rich integration. What are the other EDR solutions that Mr. provides integrations with? Pretty much most of the pieces out of the box. I know we are 2 minutes over the time, guys. This is overwhelming response. Tons of questions. I have at least 15 more questions that I could get to. We promise that we will respond to the questions that we have not answered here. But I did want to wrap up, and so back to you for follow-ups and closing.
Okay. Yes, so this, since we just finished some of those questions, like Rishi mentioned, we will follow up on all of those offline if we didn't get those. And I'd just like to thank our presenters and audience one last time, and to please take a look at some of our supporting resources there. You can see that we've got a common solution brief to learn more about the integration with CrowdStrike and Demisto there. We also are already up on YouTube. You can look at this joint product demo that's available live right now just to see just that short section. If not, we'll have the recording in full of this entire webinar and the slides delivered to you as soon as possible. We also have the State of Incident Response in 2017 report that's filled with a lot of the latest information on analyst hiring and training tools and challenges and things like that that we strongly encourage you to take a look at. As well as we have a monthly product demo on Demisto's website, so you can sign up for that anytime if you'd like to learn more.
Fantastic. Thank you, Erin. And I think, guys, I will call out, if people are interested in a bunch of the other questions on how does Demisto do this, do that, the YouTube channel that we have is an amazing resource. We are a big believer in showing more than telling. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get these delivered regularly. Thank you again.
And Rishi, one last thing.
Yeah.
Did you want to explain to the audience how they would access, this integration so people can use it?
Absolutely, guys. I think the other call to action, if you guys are interested in what you saw here, we have a Demisto free edition. You guys can go sign up for that, download the free edition, and you can actually play this hands-on. And I know the CrowdStrike team is working on an evaluation as well, but if you're already a CrowdStrike customer and looking to kind of try how this integration looks like with Demisto, it's available for you guys to go try. Free edition is full-featured, full capability. Just the number of automations is somewhat limited, but that probably doesn't come in the trial phase anyways. So yeah, we welcome you guys to try the free edition.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.